we're talking about the relationship between Serbia and Kosovo this afternoon, and let me try to just set the stage a little bit with just a couple of preliminary remarks. First, just before the two of you came in, we said goodbye to the preceding panel, which was the panel of Prime Minister Tsipras and Zaev, who are using, for good reasons, this conference to celebrate their own magnificent diplomatic success story. So maybe one of the questions that you might wish to talk about is what is keeping you from celebrating the kind of success story that these two are now enjoying? Why is it so hard? And so that's just one preliminary remark. Second, I do want to sort of just frame the debate a little bit. As far as I'm concerned, I have been confronted with what I would call, if I may call it that, the Kosovo problem as it used to be as early as 1995, when I was the chief negotiator for the German government in the effort to end the conflict in Bosnia. The instructions I got from Chancellor Kohl and his government as I was traveling to Dayton, Ohio, the instructions were pretty clear. They included a number of issues, of course, pertaining to Bosnia and Herzegovina specifically, but they included the instructions to include the Kosovo issue in a settlement. Now, as history knows, and as all the experts presented here know, I failed in trying to put that problem on the agenda at the time, because not only was President Milosevic adamantly opposed to even discuss namely Bosnian issues. So it remained untouched at the time. So that was 95. In 1998, during a time when actually Austria had the presidency of the European Union, we had a little troika of the European Union at the level of political directors. I found myself traveling to Kosovo with my Austrian colleague, Albert Rohan, and the British colleague. And as it happened, our trip ended up in a small place not far from Pristina called Mališevo, a village where shelling had been so heavy that you had to watch your step on the road into the village because it was this high, covered with machine gun shells. There was not a living soul in the village. Everybody had left. A few of the homes were burning. And the next day, my small delegation, including myself, we were then in Belgrade meeting with representatives of the then government. And we said this was a pretty horrible thing and something needed to be done about it. And unfortunately, at that moment, in Belgrade, there was no willingness, no political willingness to admit that horrible things had begun to happen in Kosovo at that time, during the year of 1998. Fast forward to a year later, 1999, when finally, after the unhappy, long weeks of military intervention, Resolution 1244 was finally adopted. A big breakthrough because Russia came back into the fold, and a long-term solution we thought had been established. And then unfortunately the Ahtisaari operation, so carefully crafted and worked out with intense cooperation from Russia. There were important Russian members in the Ahtisaari team, etc., etc. The Ahtisaari plan failed to be adopted at the United Nations in the spring of 2007, at which point, as a last resort, the Troika effort was started, of which I was part for the second half of 2007. And here again we went, an American, a European, that was myself, representing the EU, and a Russian, my good friend Alexander Botsan-Kachenko from the Russian Foreign Ministry. We worked diligently with the Kosovo delegation, of which you were an important part at that time, and the Serb delegation, which was a very professional delegation, even then, of course. And again, we failed. We didn't produce an outcome that appeared to be acceptable to all sides. And then, of course, in February of 2008, Kosovo declared independence. And it is sad for me, having spent a lot of time of my own diplomatic work on this issue, that even today, even though there have been important steps forward, and there is no war going on, but even today there are key issues remaining unresolved. And that's really why we're here. And I'm delighted to welcome the two presidents and my good friend Johannes Hahn, who is, of course, the EU Commissioner for Enlargement Issues. And we want to try to understand why it is so hard to reach agreement. And maybe, if I may, I start with you, President Vuçiq, if you could just explain to us in a couple of minutes or so, you know, what makes it hard from your side, and why are we not celebrating a breakthrough success in 2019, in February of 2019? Please.
First of all, thank you for having us here, and we really appreciate the way you're hosting this entire conference, Mr. Ischinger, and I think that the issue of Kosovo, the issue of the relationship between Belgrade and Pristina is much more complicated, much more difficult than the issue between today North Macedonia and Greece. And when we speak about Belgrade-Pristina relationship, we speak about people, we speak about people's destinies, we speak about territories, we speak about all different issues that are not easy to be tackled. And you have just mentioned one thing that's been very important for all of us, dare to say, and there is no ongoing war, which is very important for all of us. And I think that stability, tranquility, and peace is something that we accomplished. It's not something to be taken as granted. It's something that we accomplished through our dialogue process in the recent years. And that's why I was always very much afraid of the possibility that someone might defreeze that so-called frozen conflict. Speaking about dialogue process, it's in a stalemate, and before saying something else, I want to say here before the audience of an entire world that Serbia is doing its best to reach a compromising solution. And we are really doing so. And here I have all the documents that we have adopted so far, including the Brussels Agreement. And I have to say that Serbia fulfilled all its obligations from Brussels Agreement. And not only that, Serbia didn't do any unilateral acts that might cause the problems to the other side, and that might cause any kind of instability. But why we are in a stalemate today? Today is exactly 2,126 days after we adopted Brussels Agreement. And we fulfilled, there are only 15 items. And from 7th to 15th item, there were all obligations of Serbia. And we delivered 100%. It means we participated in local and parliamentarian elections under the Kosovo law. We did, and we delivered on telecom, which means that they got their dial code. It means that we delivered on justice and judiciary issue, regional police, civil protection units. They had only one obligation to deliver on. That was Serb Community, Serb Association. Today's 2,126 day, they delivered zero, nothing at all. Even after that, we were begging them not to go, not to try to become a part of different international organizations and institutions. We were saying that should be a part of a dialogue. And you're going to fail, and that will spoil the atmosphere within your own public audience. They didn't want to listen to us, and they failed, trying to be a part of Interpol, UNESCO, and the other international organizations. Then they imposed anti-civilized, I dare to say, tariffs against Serbia, although they adopted all the rules and all the regulations regarding CEFTA's arrangement in 2006. And now it's exactly 102 days after they imposed those tariffs against Serbia. And regardless of, or in spite of, international pressure, including Germany's pressure, European Union pressure, American pressure, not to mention Russia and China, they didn't deliver on that. They are stubborn, obstinate, and they always say, well, we'll do it after they recognize Kosovo's independence. They, it means Serbia. Then what happened later? Serbia didn't react. Serbia didn't react at all. We didn't impose any reciprocal measures. We didn't do anything against them. But what we are facing with? We are facing with a new platform that was adopted by so-called Kosovo government. And they adopted a platform which is anti-dialogue platform. That document stipulates that Kosovo should protect its territorial integrity, which is inviolable, inalienable, inseparable, and at the same time, Serbia will have to recognize Kosovo's independence, and furthermore, they should form a new tribunal for the Serbs and for Serbia that committed terrible crimes in Kosovo. And then there is my question, because I always hear from some of smarter Albanian politicians from Kosovo that we are close to an arrangement which is not close to the reality. Because, you know, Pristina talks the talk but doesn't walk the talk. And what I can say, once again, why we are anyway part of a dialogue. Why someone needs Serbia? Because they decided on everything. They just wait for our signature, they're going to get everything, we're going to lose everything, and then what? Do you really think that it's going to happen like that? Of course, it won't happen. And let me remind you on first sentences that I pronounced here. Serbia is very dedicated, and we acted in a very responsible way, in a very serious way. When we say that we'll provide into deed something, we do it. Which means when we signed that Brussels agreement, I went to North Mitrovica. That was one out of 2 most difficult days that I've ever had. And I was booed by my own people, almost physically attacked by them, but had enough courage to say to them that peace became the most important issue for the Serbs, because we are not afraid of our economic future. We had a good growth rate, 4.4%. We're cutting and changing the trajectory of our public debt. Unemployment rate, we cut from 26% to 11.3%. Everything goes well. Something that can put everything in jeopardy, it's our relationship with Pristina. And we'll be very keen resuming the dialogue process with Pristina, and we'll do our best to reach really a compromising solution. It cannot be, and it won't be, a capitulation of one side, in this case Serbian side. If they are willing to continue the real dialogue process, we are at disposal not only for European Union, but for the Albanians, for all Serbs and Serbians, because I think the most important issue is how we're going to develop Serb-Albanian relationship. It's not about European Union, it's not about US, it's about us, it's about our future. And that's what I was saying to Mr. Thaçi thousands of times. We are very much ready to continue the dialogue. We just wait for them, because I heard these kind of promises from their side for tens of times so far, that they will revoke their decision on tariffs. So far, it didn't happen. We are ready to carry on, and I am not that optimistic that you were, dear Mr. Ischinger, but if we work hard, if we work in a very diligent and dedicated way, I don't refuse the possibility of reaching a compromising solution. But today, we are unfortunately very far away from that.
Thank you. Thank you for a frank description. So let's go straight to President Thaçi and ask him, so what keeps you from, taking this one little step, which President Vuçiq has just described, and everything would be okay?
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ischinger, President Vuçiq, and Commissioner Hahn. I will continue in Albanian language. Thank you very much.
Just, Hashim, wait for a second, please.
Njerë faleminderit shumë nderuar ambasador Ischinger për mundësinë që na ka japur për të diskutuar për të ardhmen e raporteve mes shtetit Kosovës dhe Serbisë. Për mua është hera e tretë që marr pjesë në panele të tilla dhe që të 3 herët për relacionet Kosovë-Serbi. Realisht, unë jam jashtëzakonisht impresionuar me marrëveshjen që kanë arritur Zaev dhe Sipiras, dhe mendoj se jo vetëm që kemi një problem me pak në Ballkanin Perëndimor, por është një hap i madh gjigant për paqen dhe stabilitetin në Ballkanin Perëndimor. Prandaj, mendoj se do ishte një stimulim i madh dhe radha tani është e jona e Kosovës dhe e Serbisë. Jam shumë i vetëdijshëm se relacioni Kosovë-Serbi është me ndërlikuar, me komplikuar dhe natyrisht shumë i vështirë, sesa ai në mes të që kanë pasur për diskutim çështjen e emrit Maqedonia dhe Greqia. Por është një problem shumë i vjetër Kosovë-Serbi dhe natyrisht për 100 vjet armiqësi, por edhe juve i kujtohet gjithëve kemi të bëjmë me një periudhë freskë të luftës që ka ndodhur në Kosovë në vitit 98-99. Unë sot kisha planifikuar që më tepër të koncentruam që nga fillimi për të ardhmen në relacioneve Prishtinë, Beograd apo Kosovë-Serbi, por megjithatë më lejoni që të them disa gjëra edhe se përket Brukselit. Në vitin 2013 ne kemi arritur marrëveshjen e parë mes Kosovës dhe Serbisë në Bruksel, dhe mendoj se ka qenë sukses. Shumica atyre marrëveshjeve janë implementuar, natyrisht mbetet për të implementuar të tjera, por implementimi i marrëveshjeve bëhet vetëm atëherë kur natyrisht janë kushtetuese dhe ligjore. Prandaj edhe mesazhet që dëgjuan apo opinionet që dëgjuan me herët janë minimalisht të vërteta. Gjithashtu, ajo që dua të koncentrohem më njëherë është tani ku jemi. Ne po kalojmë në një situatë të një konflikti të ngrirë, të një status quo që për Kosovën unë mendoj se paraqet regres, dhe do ishte jetike që të vizim përpara për gjetur një zgjidhje kreative që do të nënkuptonte vullosjen në Ballkanin Perëndimor për paqe dhe stabilitet, një marrëveshje mes Kosovës dhe Serbisë. Një marrëveshje që do të nënkuptonte një njohje reciproke dhe natyrisht antarësimin e Kosovës në organizatën e Kombeve të Bashkuara. Zoti Vuçiq përmendi edhe gjërat e tjera në raport me Kosovën. Edhe në marrëveshjen e Brukselit ka qenë theksuar qartë që të mos pengohet angazhimi i Kosovës për antarësim në organizatat ndërkombëtare. Në fakt kemi pasur pengesa, secilit nga ju kujtohet edhe UNESCO, edhe Interpoli, dhe si produkti i saj ka qenë edhe reagimi se përket tarifës, që vazhdojmë me besu që sa më shpejt që pezullohet, jepet mundësi dialogut, do ishte interes të dy palëve, popujve tanë, por në të njëjtën kohë nuk e lejohet askuj mi kushtëzu dialogun, sepse dialogu duhet zhvillohet pa kushtëzime. Nga viti 2013 deri më tani, për 100 herë kam pasur mundësi mi kushtëzu nga veprimet jo korrekte të Serbisë në raport me shtetin e Kosovës. Po kemi qenë gjithmonë gjeneroz që të punojmë për të përafrohemi dhe të gjejmë mundësinë që të arrijmë marrëveshjen përfundimtare. Natyrisht se ka sfidat mes nesh, po ajo që është shumë e rëndësishme, komuniteti serb në Kosovë të mos shfrytëzohet vetëm për pojena politik nga shteti i Serbisë. Do të punojmë shumë, uroj që të kemi një fleksibilitet dhe kreativitet edhe nga Beogradi dhe që në javët apo muajt e ardhshëm të gjejmë një zgjidhje përfundimtare, finale, që do të ruante aja marrëveshja dhe karakterit multietnik edhe të Kosovës edhe të Serbisë dhe që do të përmbyllte një herë e për gjithmonë armiqsinë mes Kosovës dhe Serbisë, jo mes shqiptarëve dhe serbëve, por natyrisht se do të kishte reflektime në tërë hapësirat që jetojnë edhe shqiptarë, edhe serbë, edhe marazez, edhe maqedon, edhe të gjithë. Kjo marrëveshje do të ndihmonte edhe më tepër paqen dhe stabilitetin në rajon, por lejoni të theksoj edhe diçka tjetër për në fjalën time hyrëse, pasi që është bërë mod nga autoritetet e Beogradit me përmend gjykatën e Kosovës, si kështu sigurimi, si në për tribunat e ndryshme, e theksoj se Kosova ka marrë përgjegjësinë e vet sa përket kësaj çështje, ka marrë vendimet e veta sa përket kësaj çështje së bashku me Bashkimin Evropian dhe Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës, por secili sot pyet këto dhe gjithë bota pyet kush u dënua për 13.500 civil serb të vrarë nga ushtria e Serbisë në Kosovë, apo për rreth 400 masakra kundër shqiptarëve në Kosovë nga shteti i Serbisë, apo për rreth 20.000 gra shqiptare të dhunuara në Kosovë nga aparati shtetëror i Serbisë. Diçka e tillë nuk ka ndodhur as nga Serbia, as nga komunitetet ndërkombëtar. U akuzoi Miloševići e dim fundin e tij, ndërsa gjitha këto krime kanë mbetur pa u hetuar e pa u ndëshkuar askush. Prandaj fokusohemi ka e ardhmja se për viktim është Kosova, populli i Kosovës që ka ndosur pastrim etnik deri për masa ekstreme. Thank you.
If I may react.
Yes, please. Absolutely. And please do, interact. This is supposed to be
I
an
hope
open
that it won't
conversation.
be. I hope, and thank you for allowing me to react on this what Mr. Thaçi was saying. First of all, at the beginning of his introduction, he said that many things were fulfilled, but there is only one that hasn't been fulfilled. That's the formation of Serb community or Serb association, which was their only one obligation. And you know what was his comment? It cannot be something that is formed against the constitution of the Kosovo country. It means that if something is against the constitution of Serbia, and almost everything that we are discussing is not always directly in accordance with our constitution, we should stop discussing. Or we should say there is no venue, there is no space for any further conversations, any further dialogue. We don't care about their constitution because we don't recognize their state. In a way, they don't care about our constitution, which says that Kosovo and Metohija are part of Serbia. And that's why we have this kind of dialogue. And that's something that they don't understand. On the other hand, Mr. Thaçi was saying, now you're going to see all of you. Doesn't matter which side you support or you just want to see a final solution. He said that there is an obligation of Serbia not to stop them being a part of different international organizations and institutions. We have just said that. Where is that written? Please, here is the Brussels Agreement. Available for all of you. Nowhere. There is something else. It was written in a draft proposal. I didn't accept it. And that did not become a part of Brussels Agreement. It's not written here. Please find it. Give it to Hashim just to find it. And you're not going to find it. It's in English. Don't worry, it's not in Serbian. It's in English, and you're not going to find it. And I'm not going to make any comments about exaggerated figures, but I'll tell you one thing, because you were taking care of the situation, Mr. Ischinger, in Kosovo. And you were speaking about different world order after 1999 because the international community wanted to avert humanitarian catastrophe, and that's why you helped Kosovo Albanians. But there is one data which I would like to stress, which I would like to emphasize today here. You were speaking about 850,000 refugees, people that were forced to leave Kosovo, mainly to Albania. Today, even though I think it was not only exaggerated, but let me stop with this, but all these, doesn't matter whether it was 150,000 or 850,000, they are all back. But you know what happened with 150,000 Serbs that left Kosovo after 1999? Nothing. That's the smallest percentage of returnees in an entire world, which means officially 1.3% of Serbs came back to their thresholds, to their homes. And when you speak about 1990s and atrocities done by one guys, I can speak for weeks about terrible atrocities committed against Serbian people. But here, and now I'm stopping here, I just showed you, because I'm very responsible and very serious man, just showed you an example, how they use something that became, accepted by all international players, by all international stakeholders, like you Serbs are doing your best to revoke recognition of Kosovo in many countries. Yes, we do. But they do everything to get recognized by all the other countries. And Madagascar is by far the best example. They attacked us and they said, you see those bloody Serbs, those crazy guys, they were working very hard to revoke recognition of Kosovo, and they went to Madagascar, to Antananarive. Yes, we did it. But you know what happened a year before that? During our dialogue process, they got recognition from Madagascar. When they were doing that, it was a proper way of delivering good results for the dialogue framework. When we did the same, it was a bloody, terrible move by those stupid Serbs, and that's it. What I'm speaking here about, it's double standard approach. You cannot say to me today, dear Mr. Ischinger, and doesn't matter that we disagree on many things. You know how much I appreciate you personally and respect you, And you know that we are very responsible, very serious, and very dedicated to this job. Because I can tell you something. We want to preserve this kind of economic growth. We want to see a bigger and a better pace for Serbia's future. And we want to resolve our problems with Albanians once for all. And we really want to do so. And I know that Thaçi knows that. But we need to have a reliable partner. We need viable solutions. We need someone who will not play the role for international community only. We need to do it between ourselves and for ourselves. And to tell you the truth, I don't care what would be the reaction of that international partner or another international partner. It's about us. It's between us. If we'll be able to create that axis of peace between Serbs and Albanians, two biggest nations of the Western Balkans, that'll mean peace for next 100, 200 years. That's why we are ready to invest all our efforts. That's why I'm personally very ready to risk not only my political career, but much more than that. And Johannes knows that. Much more than that. Just to try to reach a possible agreement, but it has to be a compromising arrangement. It cannot be that one side gets everything, the other side loses everything. We have to be both dissatisfied with that solution. That would be a win-win situation. Sorry that I showed a bit of, not mine, but Serbia's frustration over this dialogue process. And when someone says someone is putting conditions, we're not putting conditions. We fulfilled everything from that Brussels agreement. They didn't do only one thing they had to do. And after that, they imposed tariffs against us. And we are losing 45 million euros per month. And we are still calm, doing nothing against them. There are no reciprocal measures against them. You really think that we cannot harm them? And their explanation for their public audience and for the entire world is, we wanted to harm Serbia. Okay, congratulations. You did it. And we don't want to do that with them. We don't want to do that with anyone else. Because we are future-oriented, looking towards the future, and I'm ready, and Thaçi knows that. I'm ready always to speak to them. Always. And they didn't hear a single bad word about Albanian people from myself. Never, ever. Because we appreciate them. We respect them. We appreciate their interests. But we have our own interests as well. And someone should care about it also. Sorry that I took a lot of your time.
No, that's fine. And I want to thank you because it's important certainly for this audience and beyond of course, to understand that this is not a little chicken game that you are playing here, but this is about very fundamental interests and about domestic issues and politics. No doubt this is very difficult. We wouldn't be sitting here if it were easy. And before handing over to Johannes Hahn to take a look at it from the European Commission point of view, let me just say, and I'm not, it's not my job to criticize either one of you. All I'm saying is, as a German, there is no such thing as categorical impossibility of resolving a political conflict. We learned this, fortunately, some 25 years ago, 28 years ago, when out of the blue, something happened to our nation which everybody had thought would never happen in our lifetime, the unification of Germany. So I have become a believer through that process in the theory that in foreign policy, in international relations, in international conflict, you have a conflict, you have an unresolved issue between the two of you. Resolving that conflict is not impossible, but it takes political will, it takes the correct timing, it takes the ability to compromise, it also requires a level of trust. There are a number of conditionalities which I can imagine play a bigger or a smaller role. So, but fundamentally, I would not take it from either one of you that it can be done. It can be done, and hopefully it will be done. And before you respond, Johannes, why don't you take a careful look from the European Union Commission?
Yeah, thank you very much. You were referring, Wolfgang, that just before Greece and North Macedonia were in a way celebrating their, rightly so, their agreement. I'm not quite sure if it is less complicated than the resolution of this issue, but at least there is one element I want to refer, and this is when the two leaders and their teams, I'm now referring to North Macedonia and Greece, started to negotiate this. This was only purely supported by their respective citizens. So I think in North Macedonia less than 20%, and most likely in Greece a similar number was supportive for finding an agreement. And nevertheless, finally they managed to strike an agreement. And I mean, in the meantime, I think the approval rate to this has, I wouldn't say skyrocketed, but it has really improved within a couple of weeks. And this should give us some optimism and also encourage all of us to find a solution. And I think it was rightly said by the two presidents, not only today, but several times, but also to others, everything what you are doing, what you are aiming at, is not to serve us, some European officials. It's in the interest of your citizens. And Melinda Brego just gave me recent figures of opinion poll in the region saying that 75% of people in the region and from the region are in favor of regional cooperation, of cross-border cooperation, acknowledging how important this is for welfare. And so to say, the most pressing issue for people in the region is the economic situation, is the situation of unemployment. Particularly in Kosovo, 75% of people are, so to say, afraid about the unemployment situation. So what we have launched almost 2 years ago is, for instance, a regional economic area, which includes all the 6 countries of the region, in order to abandon formal, informal barriers, trying to improve trade and everything which is related to it, in order to stimulate the economic development, to address the brain drain, to address the huge unemployment rate, in particular of young people. And I have to say the positive outcome of this dialogue is crucial, is the core issue of the whole West Balkan European perspective. And not only the European perspective, but simply the improvement of living conditions. Because if we are working on regional cooperation, but the two are blocking each other, they are blocking the 4 others. And therefore it has an impact on the situation of all of them, and finally on the stability of the region. And this is exactly what we are aiming at, to export stability in order to import instability. But mainly, and this is the reason for asking for the floor, it's about the interests of the people on the ground. And that's why I have participated in different panels together with the two and also others on this subject. There were sometimes moments where it was more optimistic than maybe today, but I'm nevertheless grateful for the continuing commitment to work on a solution. And the second thing is, I think it's not only high time, it's more than that, and it's now, even it doesn't sound and look like, a window of opportunity to strike very soon a deal, and I hope this is not any kind of indication, to strike very soon, because energy changes and switches are part of our discussions. but we should try to strike a deal as soon as possible. May I say, till the end of the mandate of the current Commission, because then there is a new crew. You never know who and how and so until everybody is familiar with it. And if we are losing time, we are losing momentum, and we are losing, so to say, support by your citizens, but also by member states. And therefore, I only urge you to work on a constructive solution. As President Vuçiq rightly said, it's about a compromise, and the compromise is always something where both parts have to give in order to have finally more. And this is something everybody has to understand, and I really rely on your commitment, but it's not only about your commitment, it's also about some colleagues, may I say, in the countries to support all these efforts.
I think, thank you, Johannes. I think we would be making a mistake in this discussion, which we don't have much more time to have, if we didn't raise two questions, and I'm just going to try to throw out these two questions to both of you. First, if these problems are so tough as you described, and you got really emotional about it, and which I understand, what might be your expectations and your expectations? Do we have different expectations as far as we, the EU, or other actors? Could we do something different? Do you need a different kind of mediation or help or support or patronage? What can we do to make it easier? That's the first question. Is there anything that we can do to make it easier? Second question is, and I think this is sort of the elephant in the room, the international media have been, pitched very highly over these last months, over and over again, with this idea of border changes and land swap, and to what extent that would be desirable or terrible or both. So if you could please also refer to this question and either tell us if that's important for the solution or no longer a big issue. President Vuçiq, or do you want to start? Please.
Unë sot kam qenë me të vërtetë I fokusuar që diskutojmë për mundësinë e arritjes së marrëveshjes dhe diskutojmë për të ardhmen, po më lejo përsëri të sqaroj 2-3 gjëra, pastaj ndalem edhe në domosdoshmërinë e arritjes së marrëveshjes. Unë dje lexova zotin Vuçiq që kishte deklaruar se do ta mbrojtëse shumë Serbinë në panel. Dhe këtu në betejë nuk jemi sot dhe nuk e di se çka ka me mbrojt. Leto me bot drama, me aktrua, po me luajtë rolin e viktimës. Por nuk mund të rishkruhet historia. Gjithë bota disë pastrimi etnik në Kosovë ka ndodhur nga Serbia, ushtria dhe policia e Serbisë, nga shteti I Serbisë, por edhe një realitet tjetër. Nga qershori 99-s në Kosovë ka qenë NATO, KFOR-i, UNMIK, OSBE-ja dhe largimi I pjesë të serbëve të Kosovës ka ndodhur në kolonat e largimit të ushtrisë dhe policisë serbe për organizuar përsëri nga shteti I Serbisë. Tash tek asociacioni komuna me shumicë serbe. Ne jemi dakordu me themelu një asociacion të komuna me shumicë serbe, e në të njëjtën kohë tjetë në përpushmëri me Kushtetutën e Kosovës, ligjet e Kosovës dhe standardet e veçqeverisjes lokale evropiane. Mendoj se keq kuptimi është se zoti Vuçiq ende nuk e kupton se unë jam president një vendi sovran. Po Kosova është vend sovran I njohur për 126 shteteve. Unë mendoj se sikur të ishte lehtë të arrihet marrëveshja kështu në arritje të tjetë para neve. S'na kishte rënë neve fare hisë. Por përsëri shpresoj se do të jetë shumë vështirë marrjet marrëveshja, pothuajse pa mundur, për shkak se armiqësia shumë e madhe, po mba shpresa që mund të arrijmë. Pse mba shpresa? Sepse ekziston vullneti për më ulë dhe me diskutu. Spaku Zoti Vuçiq dhe unë diskutojmë, flasim. Kundërshtarët e paqes, stabilitetit, marrëveshjeve kanë shkuar aq larg në Beograd e Prishtinë sa propozojnë ndërtimin e murit Kosovë-Serbi për gjatë territorin. Ne mund të kemi dallime dhe kemi dallime të mëdha, po s'paku po flasim. Prandaj ne kemi shpreh dëshirën të ulemi, diskutojmë dhe realisht edhe të arrijmë marrëveshje përfundimtare, jo të përkohshme. Dhe theksoj që në kupton njohjen e Kosovës edhe antarësimin e Kosovës në OKB. Por e di gjithashtu se nuk do të jetë dhurat nga Beogradi njohja e Kosovës dhe antarësimi i Kosovës në OKB. Gjithashtu e di si duhet jetë një kompromis. Kompromis që duhet ta diskutojmë bashkarisht autoritetet e Prishtinës dhe të Beogradit me rolin e Bashkimit Evropian. Pse mund të arrihet marrëveshja? Mund të arrihet se Bashkimi Evropian është duke u hequr, i ftoi Bashkimin Evropian gjitha shtetet anëtare që jenë me unik në këtë qasje. Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës janë shumë të qarta dhe këtë qartësi e kanë theksuar edhe në 2 letrat e fundit që i ka dërguar presidenti Trump drejtuar edhe zotit Vuçiq që edhe mua para 2 ditësh. Por është kjo vështirësia, se ne rambuje s'kemi arritur të diskutojmë për marrëveshjen mes Kosovës dhe Serbisë. As në vjen 2008. Tani ne po flasim, po shprehim gatishmëri me arrit marrëveshje, është dallim i madh. Por edhe vështirësi shpresdhënëse nuk ka garanci që ndoshta edhe Rusia do të mund të akceptonte marrëveshjen që arrin Kosova dhe Serbia. Dhe do ishte një njohje globale e kësaj marrëveshje që definitivisht do ta uloste paqen dhe stabilitetin në Ballkanin Perëndimor. Prandaj një unitet i Bashkimit Evropian, i Shteteve të Bashkuara të Amerikës, jam i bindur do të na ndihmonte shumë për të arritur marrëveshjen mes Kosovës dhe Serbisë. Ne edhe paqe do të ndërtojmë, do të kemi dallime, por mund të jetë Kosova dhe Serbia një model franko-gjerman i pas luftës së dytë botërore. E di si ka shumë skeptik për marrëveshje, ka dhe kritik. Por asnjë prej atyre nuk po ndëgjoj na ide se si me lëviz përpara. Si mi kalu këtë status quo, këtë konflikt të ngrirë. Flasim për një kuti të Pandorës. Realisht në Ballkan është e hapur kutia e Pandorës. Pikërisht marrëveshja Kosovë-Serbi do ta mbyllte kutinë e Pandorës. Derisa gjithë liderët e rajonit, qoftë i Malit Zi, i Shqipëri, do liderët e Malit Zi, Shqipërisë, Maqedonisë, e mbështesin angazhimin ton, ndërsa të tjerë thjesht ngrisin një ide që me të vërtetë nuk qëndrojnë në realitetin e zhvillimeve politike në Ballkanin Perëndimor. Ne mund të rrim në raportet të tilla të ngrira, por raportet tona do të reflektojnë negativisht në tërë Ballkanin Perëndimor. Dhe përdesa nuk arrin marrëveshje Kosova dhe Serbia, që jeni të bindur se do të ketë edhe më tepër ndikim ideologjit jo perëndimor në Ballkanin Perëndimor. Me pak në Kosovë, por në hapësira tjera më shumë. Se të këtë fundit ne jemi popullata më pro-evropiane në Ballkanin Perëndimor, edhe më pro-amerikane, edhe pse jemi vendi më izoluar, por nuk kemi alternativë tjetër. Prandaj nuk do të kursejmë asgjë që këtë vit arrijmë marrëveshjen me Serbinë, megjithëse di si jemi shumë larg dhe kemi dallime të mëdha, një marrëveshje të interesave të balancuara. Dhe jo njëra të feston, tjetra të vajton, por thjesht për të përgjegjësive të mëdha tona që kemi si vende dhe të kalojmë nga një armiqësi e përhershme në një paqe të qëndrueshme.
I won't refer too much to Mr. Thaçi's words on our past, not because I have nothing to say about it, but because I really think that your questions were, and our responses to your questions